Good morning on this beautiful 7th of February 2025, 9 o'clock in the morning, no down jacket. I woke up to 21 degrees Celsius this morning. That was fantastic. We got a little bit of wind. I do not hope it's interfering too much with the video. But it's not meant to be a long video. It's going to be just a short one with some good news. I have reignited a protocol that I stopped many months ago, and that is the Rick Simpson oil protocol. That is to be said though, now I call it FECO, full extract cannabis oil protocol. And I do that because Rick Simpson oil, if you're familiar with that, is said to be a very efficient way of treating cancer because of the cannabinoids. But I have done some research and I've used it for 3 months with the protocol advised, which is 1 gram or more every day for 90 days, and I did not see any effect of it. And I started to look into it, and I realized that the way I made it using ethanol as an extraction method might not have been the right way to do it. It's getting a little bit technical now, but you can take it for what it is. And if you are looking for a supplier for Rick Simpson oil, you'll just have a little added information, so you might be qualified to ask some more in-depth questions. Make sure you don't have to deal with a scammer. When you're doing ethanol extraction, then you have to distill the product, the extraction, to pull out the ethanol. And the ethanol boiling point is at 78 degrees. But the terpene boiling point, well, it's actually way beyond it, but the degradation of the terpene starts at about 30 degrees. We're talking Celsius here. Now, since I was doing volumes, I was doing 100 grams of buds at a time. I was using between 2.5 and 3 liters of alcohol to get as much of the properties out of it as I could, as much cannabinoids and terpenes and whatnot. Then I altogether have to spend about an hour to do the initial retrieval of the alcohol in the distiller, and then I had to do another about 30 minutes on my magnetic stirrer, where I could heated magnetic stirrer, where I could pull the rest on a lower heat. But nonetheless, in order to pull it out, you have to reach 78 degrees. That's the boiling point of the ethanol. So for an hour and a half, I have been exposing my terpenes to a temperature that has degraded those qualities greatly. That's one part of it, and terpenes is an important bit in the process of treating cancer, as far as I understand. The second one is, because I'm doing it in a full batch, then when I'm done with the whole process, I am decarboxylating, meaning I am activating the THC or the CBD in the cannabis, and I'm doing that in an oven at 105 degrees Celsius for an hour. This in turn means that the precursor to THC and CBD, which is THCA and CBDA, is now converted to THC and CBD. But THCA and CBDA and all the other 3-letter things, has cancer fighting properties. But the way I've done it with my ethanol extraction means I have basically converted all THCA and CBDA to THC and CBD. So now I have an extraction that gives you a full high, absolutely. Taste mediocre because I've reduced the taste of it by reducing the qualities of the terpenes. And I have reduced the entourage effect of this cannabis here. And that might actually be the reason why we see fairly few good stories about people using ISO for cancer treatment. Rick Simpson obviously did it, and he did it for skin cancer, but I do not have skin cancer to the best of my knowledge. I have prostate cancer, so that's what I've got to focus on. So now I've got into changing that production. So instead of using ethanol extraction, I am now moving into making hydrocarbon extraction, as it's called, and that is using butane. Some are using a combination of butane and propane. It's merely a matter of boiling temperature for the product. Butane has a higher boiling point than propane, but we are talking a boiling point at about 0 degrees, which means that the cannabis I'm now working with, which is frozen before I start, will never be exposed to a temperature higher than the ambient temperature. That in turn means we will not get into the area of degrading the terpenes. Now, as it stands right now, I still need to receive my centrifuge. So the decarboxylation I've done for the few things I've already done with my hydrocarbon extraction has done by using sous vide. Sous vide is the best way because you vacuum seal your cannabis buds, you submerge it in the water, you set it to 92 degrees Celsius, and it stays like that for the duration of the time you need, which is 1.5 hours. Then you have all the terpenes and all the goodies are still in the bag. You haven't had them vaporizing out in the air. But it also means that all the THCA and CBDA is gone, but I preserved the terpenes. And in the whole process, I'll have preserved the terpenes because the final purge of the butane, the initial purge of the butanes just happens by letting it out in a petri dish, not petri dish, but a glass dish, and the ambient temperature will have it vaporized. But you cannot purge it all out unless you have a vacuum chamber or you're very meticulous, but vacuum chamber is a safe way to do it. So that's the way I am doing it. So in order for me with this new batch to reach the highest possible quality, I have then done 2 batches where I have decarboxylated before I started out, and then I've done the whole process preserving the terpenes, and I have a sous vide decarboxylated, as I mentioned. But then I also did a batch of my CBD strain. It is Charlotte's Angel, I think it is, and it is 2 to 6% THC and 15% CBD. That strain I have not decarboxylated, but ran it through the hydrocarbon extraction and in the vacuum chamber. And when it was done, I have 100% preserved, or not 100%, but very well preserved terpenes, and I have not converted any of the CBDA and THCA to CBD and THC. And I've mixed that into my cocktail of the activated, the decarboxylated, hydrocarbon extracted buds, 2 versions, and then I'm taking my old stash of ethanol extracted oils. I'm taking some of the better ones, some of the stronger ones, some of them with a better medical profile, like sour diesel, and mix them in. So I've got 30 grams. Those 30 grams is mixed in with 60 grams of coconut oil. And then, just to perfect it, and that's why I do not want to call it the Rick Simpson oil anymore, because it is now in quality moving away from what I'm certain you will find of Rick Simpson oil on the internet. But I've added essential oils as well, because frankincense and clove is 2 things that seems to be with very good properties in terms of cancer treatment. And why not make the opportunity to, deliver that treatment along with my suppositories of cannabis. So I've added 1 milliliter of each oils to the mixture, and then we're going to see what it is going to do. I'm very, 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 very optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I'm absolutely thrilled optimistic. Adding the fact that I've also now sitting and studying somebody called Lynn Taggart. I think it's Lynn Taggart. And she's working a lot about the power of the mind in groups, power of the mind on your own. And we all know it. I've mentioned it many times before. If you're not, it is better to do something wrong and believing in it than to do something right and not believing in it, as long as the wrong you do is not 100% detrimental to your health. I mean, you cannot do something that literally will kill you, because then it won't be good for you, obviously. But that's because of how the mind works. And this woman, she are talking in depth about that. She's talking about the studies that she has done herself and the studies that exist out of the market on how much value there is in the right mindset. And I like that. It's not something I'm struggling with in general, but I do reflect on the numbers I have of my PSA. And as much as I'm happy that it has never crossed the 124 that I had on the 14th of August 2023, then I can still conclude that the 78 I had in PSA in December 2023 has never reached again. I've always been above that number. And I kind of rewind and I realized why that most likely is. as I got diagnosed and initially came over that little bit of a, oh bugger, I got cancer, what's going on there? And I realized this was something that I had to manage myself, and I started digging into all the information. I got very excited. I got so excited that I thought that I could be cured by the 21st of February 2024, which is almost exactly 1 year ago. And that optimism was based on all the information I found on the internet on what can be done, but not just single information. It was the plethora of possibilities of treating yourself that was out there, apparently all good and all working well. So I knew that I had so many ways to tweak it that I would definitely be cured by the 21st of February. So that was the deadline where I said if it was not cured, I would then go and take the ADT, androgen deprivation therapy. But as we can conclude here a year later, I haven't done any of it, and I'm still not above the 124, but I'm also not at 78, because what then happens was I started to doubt again. I started getting a little bit too much into the routine of just swallowing the supplements as I was supposed to, did my research, had my ups, had my downs. I was not really on the roll constantly all the time, but I had obviously periods of time where I was like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm doing something right now. And those times, yeah, I saw positive impact on my PSA. But now I'm studying this a little Taggart, and I am trying to get a hold of some more consistent way of maintaining a positive attitude towards the result, because I do believe what I'm doing right now is absolutely brilliant, and I would love to see a huge dump in my PSA next time, because that would boost my confidence significantly. But as she says, when she is referring to the studies, and they do these surveys, and they ask people who have seen positive improvements in their diseases, whatever kind of disease they are, after they've given up in the medical industry, then she says, well, 8 out of 10 answers is not related to supplements or medicine. It is all about mindset. It's all about how you organize your day, how you think about the disease, and how you go about entertaining yourself, that you have hobbies to abstract yourself from, and so on and so forth. And that's very interesting, and I think that's exactly where the healing process really is. You could swallow all the curcumin you want. It will at best slow things down, but it won't cure you. You got to be at the right mindset to be cured. So I am very, very positive. A new FECO oil with a little bit of clove and frankincense is going to do magic. That also means that I'm changing my CD protocol. Usually I do the morning and the afternoon flush. Now I'll only do the morning, and then I'll do my cannabis suppository in the evening before I go to bed, so I don't get any high, if that should be the case. I don't think so. And then very conveniently in the morning I'll do the flush with CD and clean out the system, and then I'll do it all over again the next evening. And I think that's the way to do about it. So I do a combination there. I don't know if CD is interfering with cannabis or the other way around, but I know by having as much distance between the two, the likelihood of that to be interfering with one another is not very high. Plus, I know that CD is out of the system in about 15 minutes. So, good news, really good news. I'm very, very optimistic. I'm also optimistic by the fact that I read everywhere, not everywhere, but I read many places now that people are being with a life expectancy of only 2 years if they're not getting treated, and they are at a much better place in life when they are being diagnosed or prognosed like that. And me sitting here 2 years after I had my first blood test, not having felt better at all. I know that what I'm doing is working now. Now I'm not guessing as much as I know for a fact it is working. What I just still do not know is what it takes to bring it down. Well, I think I know what it takes, but I haven't done it yet, what it takes to bring it down to zero, what brings my PSA down, all the way down. I had one guy who said to me, when I mentioned that I've not been above my initial PSA, that I could do hormone treatment and my PSA would go below 10, but I think the guy misunderstood the whole idea. The idea is to maintain a clean health so that I can use the PSA to measure where I am. So I can measure the initiative I do. I can see if I do something wrong or if I'm doing something that really works. The moment I use ADT, then I have disguised my PSA and I can't see it anymore. But not just that, the moment I take ADT, I will also be starting the clock on being castrate resistant. There are people who are using ADT, pulsating, or maybe permanently, and done it for 10 years and nothing has happened. It's been all good. But there are also people who has become castrate resistant in about a year. And I don't see any reason for those two reasons that I should start that. Now my little friend is here back. That's a sign for me to call it off today. Stay happy and healthy until next time.